Hello friends, this is lesson number 43 in the series of British literature in English. And as we were discussing the Elizabethan age, its political and social conditions in the previous lesson, so today we are starting with the important writers, especially the poets of that age. So the first important writer of this age we have Edmund Spenser. You may have heard this term Spenserian sonnets. So these sonnets are developed by Edmund Spenser. We shall try to learn what is the rhyme scheme of these sonnets. In the last video I mentioned Shakespearean sonnets, Petrarchan sonnets. So in the similar way we have Spenserian sonnets. But first we shall discuss a few of the things about his personal life. He was born in the year 1552 and died in the year 1599. So almost 47 or 46 years he lived, and his father was a weaver. So he belonged to the working class, hard working class, and his father worked in Merchant Taylor Company. So it is the name of a firm where he worked. And Edmund Spenser, he was educated in the same premises. There was a school with the name Merchant Taylor School in London, and there he faced that humanistic environment because he was living with the working class, hard working people. There he got the exposure of the classical text, especially of music and drama. So the classical text, again I am telling you, that is of ancient times of Greek and Roman literature. At the age of 16 he went to the Pembroke College of Cambridge University. Pembroke College of Cambridge University, and there he got the job as a sizar. What is sizar now? If you remember in the previous videos, once I talked about the journeyman. Journeyman is the person like a skilled laborer who works under the master. But here we have the term that is sizar. And sizar means when a student is studying and also working in the same premises, you are admitted in a college and the college is providing you some assistance free stay, lodgings and meals, and also charging you a bit less fees than the other students, and in return you are doing some work for the college, like you are working there as a clerk. So it is like you are studying and also you are working. So that is the job of a sizar. So he was working as a sizar and also getting his education, and during his study he was writing as well, and he was translating the ancient poetries, and there he became a friend with a person named Gabriel Harvey. Gabriel Harvey. When you search this person, Gabriel Harvey, he is not that important person, but his name was highlighted because of one fact, that he remained in some sort of a dispute or controversy with Thomas Nash. And now you should try to recall who is Thomas Nash. Do you remember the university wits? So among the 6 university wits we have the name Thomas Nash. Sometimes, this is my theory, sometimes that we learn the things, or we better remember the things when we have these sort of cross references. So now today we are just having a cross reference with Thomas Nash. So probably it will help you to remember that Thomas Nash is one of the university wits of the Cambridge University. Means he was the student of this university along with Christopher Marlowe and Robert Greene. Anyway, so Thomas Nash, he wrote a work, the name of that work, that is quite famous work, that is Unfortunate Traveller. Unfortunate Traveller. Okay, it has nothing to do with Edmund Spenser. I am just telling you because there is some sort of cross reference and it will help you to remember this name and his important work, because there was a question once I faced about Thomas Nash. So same I am telling you here. Thomas Nash has written a work. The name is Unfortunate Traveler. That is his main work, important work. And it is the other title for this work is The Life of Jack Wilton. So there may be a question that who is the central character or the protagonist of this work? That is Jack Wilton. Anyway, Thomas Nash was in some sort of a dispute with Gabriel Harvey. So what was that? Thomas Nash wrote a work, Strange News, and in that work he mocked Gabriel Harvey. Apart from this, now coming back to Edmund Spenser, as he became friend with Gabriel Harvey, but there was still a difference between these two persons, especially about their choices, as Gabriel Harvey was always in favor of the ancient and moderns, and Spenser had a choice for the classical poetry only, not for the moderns. So there was a difference between their choices. And Spenser acquired the knowledge of different languages as well at that small age. He knew Latin, Greek classic language, and Italian, French also. And he translated the works of these languages into that standard English of that time. And later, among his political, or you can say the career development, we see he became secretary to John Young. He is the Bishop of Rochester, and later he became secretary to the Earl of Lancaster. So somewhat he got up in the professional stage, and there he got some access of the royal court, and then he got introduced to the Queen Elizabeth. This is also understandable that these sort of names are not so important to remember, but when we learn these things through the complete story, when you note down all these names, okay, don't try to mug up those names because they are not so important, but eventually it will help you to remember the things. Names may not be that important, but the events are important. The name like Gabriel Harvey or Thomas Nash, these are important names. So you should try to just repeat these names whenever you recite that lesson again. Definitely it will help you remember the things. Remember, in UGC NET exam, most of the time the questions are not so simple. There are plenty of, you can say, lines, like 5-6 lines long question, and then you find the cross references in that questions, and proper hint is also given in the question. So that sort of things, when you learn about the life of a person, definitely you will get some sort of idea, especially if there is any question related to it. If simply you learn that he was friend of Gabriel Harvey and that's it, it won't help you that much. When you learn a few of the things about Gabriel Harvey as well, then the things will stick to your mind in a better way. This is my belief. Anyway, moving on. In the year 1579, he published his first important work, and that is Shepherd's Calendar. Shepherd's Calendar. So shepherd, you know, the one who is there with the sheep and living a rural or rustic life in the countryside. So he wrote this work, and then he got married to Machabayas. Machabayas, okay, I do not know what is the exact spell or pronunciation of this word. Machabayas' child, and they got 2 children, Sylvanus and Catherine. And in the year 1580, he went to Ireland in service of the newly appointed Lord Deputy Arthur Grey. So after marriage, he went to Ireland, and there he went for some sort of a political job, and then he served under Walter Raleigh. Sir Walter Raleigh, this is important name. In the works you will find his name, Sir Walter Raleigh. In fact, he is related to the sea traveling, when the people started traveling across the countries through the sea. So he is one important name. So we will study him about his works as well, but still try to remember that Sir Walter Raleigh was some sort of his master, so he worked under him. And about his religious ideology, Edmund Spenser, he was in favor of Anglican Church and he was of the Protestant views. He considered that Catholics are anti-religious people. In the year 1581, this is a very important point of his life, that he built his own castle in Ireland. So try to remember Ireland, Scotland, these are the part of that Great Britain, and in Ireland he settled there, and the name of that castle is Kilcolman. Kilcolman. A few years later, in the year 1594, his first wife died and he married Elizabeth Boyle. This name is also important because in some of the work she is supposed to be the character, Elizabeth Boyle. And in 1598, his house was burned down by the Irish people or Irish rebellions. And as Ben Jonson, remember this name, Ben Jonson, the great dramatist of Elizabethan age, he asserted that one of his infant child was also burned down in that blaze, and he lost several of his writings as well in that blaze. Actually, why those people burned down his house, there is one reason. From 1593 to 1603, about the period of 9 or 10 years, there was a sort of war between the Gaelic Irish rebellion people and the English rule in Ireland. England that time, the England government, the Queen Elizabeth, she was ruling not just in England. In fact, their government was also ruling in Ireland. That was also the part of Great Britain, and the local people, they were rebellious, they were against this rule, and that is why they were protesting against this government. And because of this protest, we see that the mob or the agitated people, they attacked his house because he was a native Englishman. So that is why the people attacked his house and burned down, and that really ruined his life. And after that, he went back to England, and there, according to Ben Jonson, one more statement that he says, after that, when he returned to England, he was only for the want of a bread. For want of a bread means he was simply ruined. And then when he died, he was buried in Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey in Poets' Corner, just alongside Sir Geoffrey Chaucer. So here one name, that is Westminster Abbey. Sometimes even I pronounce this word like Westminster Abbey. It's not minister, it's a Westminster Abbey. That is the part of a church, and in that church there is maybe a graveyard, and there he is buried. So that is about his personal life. I believe his personal life is very important, and that is why I shared these sort of details with you. Once or twice you can simply go through, and then you need not mug up anything. Now we have one name, that is Ben Jonson. He is friend of Edmund Spenser, and he stated one quote. So remember this quote. What is this? Edward Spenser wrote no language. Who said this? Ben Jonson. As far as his writing is concerned of Edmund Spenser, it developed in three phases. The first phase we see in the Cambridge University when he was studying. Second, when he was working as a secretary in London. And third, when he was residing in Ireland. And Ireland, when he was residing at that time, he wrote Celtic poetry. What is Celtic poetry? It is related to the ancient legends of the Ireland. So try to remember, Celtic poetry is related to the ancient legends, means god or mythical figures of Ireland, and about them he wrote poetry. Now about some literary points that has significance with his personal life, his opinions, and what the other writers even has to say about him. So the first, he is a good friend of Philip Sidney. So try to relate the things. When Ben Jonson, we have the name. So another poet we have, that is Philip Sidney from the Elizabethan age. So he's friend of Philip Sidney and had a lot of influence of him. And also he was writing under the influence of the Virgil, the great Roman poet, and Greek poets like Homer and philosopher like Aristotle. And he used some words of the old tradition. Means even I said that when you see the spellings of a few of his works like Shepherd's Calendar, see the spelling of shepherd. In Fairy Queen you can see the spellings of fairy and queen. These spellings sounds of old-fashioned English. So he is quite fond of writing in that archaic type of English. So remember this word, archaic type means when we use the spellings of old type of language, that is old-fashioned English. Among his likes we also see the great Chaucer, and he is quite influenced by Canterbury Tales, because even in Canterbury Tales we see the Middle English. He is also influenced by Petrarchan sonnets. Do you remember? From Italy he is. And about his views on Christianity, he wrote a lot of things. As I told you that about in Christianity he is in favor of Protestant views, and he also wrote on Celtic poetry of Ireland. And most of the time he followed iambic pentameter in poetry, and he developed his own stanzas of writing or own rhyme scheme, and that is called Spenserian stanza or Spenserian sonnets. So what is the rhyme scheme of these sonnets? So first remember or try to understand what is sonnet. Sonnet is the small form of a poem. It is about 14 lines, and most of the time you see it is divided in two segments. The first 8-line segment, that is called octet, and then we have the last 6 lines as sestet. So what is the rhyme scheme used by Spenser, Edmund Spenser, and that is AB AB, BC BC, CD CD, and last 2 lines are EE. There are 2 important points about Spenserian stanzas. The first, you see the structure, in that when the first quadrant, the 4-line ends like with the rhyme scheme we have AB AB, then you see the next quadrant starts with the B, and when the second quadrant ends with the C, then you see the next quadrant starts with C. So the ending line of the first quadrant is the beginning line of the next quadrant. So that is the rhyme scheme used in Spenserian sonnets. So apart from this, the other point I was telling you, that in Spenserian stanza we have iambic pentameter, but in the last 2 lines we have iambic hexameter. In the iambic pentameters we have the 5 metrical feet, and in iambic hexameter we have 6 feet. Okay, what are these feet? We shall talk about these feet one day in a special lesson. So the last line is in iambic hexameter, and iambic hexameter is called as Alexandrine. Try to remember this word also. Alexandrine is the another name for iambic hexameter. Why? It is believed that during the time of Alexander the Great of Macedonia, this hexameter, iambic hexameter, was developed. That is why it is given this name. So Spenserian stanza, try to correlate the rhyme scheme or compare the rhyme scheme with this that is other Petrarchan sonnets and Shakespearean sonnets. What is the difference? When you compare all these 3, then it will be quite easier for you to remember them. Now we have a few more points about him. The other writers, what they have to say about him. Like I said that Ben Jonson has a lot to say about him, and we have gone through about his words. Charles Lamb, another poet, we will study him. He said that Edmund Spenser is poet's poet. For which work he is saying? He is praising him for Fairy Queen. Walter Raleigh, I told you that he is related to the sea traveling, and especially he has written a lot of things about sea traveling experiences, and he admired and he wrote a commentary for his work, that is Fairy Queen. In fact, in this Fairy Queen we have a preface, and in that preface we see there is a letter written by Edmund Spenser to Sir Walter Raleigh. Next we have John Milton. John Milton, and he has written a work that is Areopagitica. Areopagitica, and in that he quotes something, and you may note down: our sage and a serious poet. Sage means hermit sort of person. Our sage and a serious poet, Spenser, whom I dare to be known to think a better teacher than Scotus and Aquinas. And there are two names: Scotus. Scotus means Duns Scotus. He is a Scottish man from 12th or 13th century, and Thomas Aquinas. We also study about him in future. So he's thinking that Spenser is far better than these writers. Then we have Alexander Pope, and he compares him with a mistress and says that whose faults we see, but love her with them all. Means we see the fault of Edmund Spenser, his shortcomings, but we still love him because we praise him because of his good works. So that sort of a things we see the view in the views of Alexander Pope. So that's it about Edmund Spenser, his personal life, and the other literary things about his writings. We shall discuss all of his important works in great detail. Like in the next lesson, we shall study Shepherd's Calendar, and then it is expected that we shall study Fairy Queen as well in great detail, because that is a huge work. Before finishing this lesson, let's recite the important points which are to be remembered. So first, he is the son of a weaver, hard-working class from where he comes, and he is a sizer. Try to remember, sizer is a student who does a job and also studies and gets some sort of assistance from the authority. Gabriel Harvey, try to remember this name, his friend, and then the person with whom he had a controversy or dispute, that is Thomas Nash. And the important work by Thomas Nash is Unfortunate Traveller. Then about Spenser, we have that he studied classic languages, Greek, Latin and French. And then about his religious views, that he is a Protestant and against the Catholics, and his castle is called as Kilcolman. And then there is a brief incident about the Irish rebellions attacking his house and burning down everything. And then we have the people, the names that have come, and also about the Spenserian sonnets, the stanza, the rhyme scheme he used, and also about things about iambic hexameter. Alexandrine is the other name. Before finishing this video, I insist you to make proper notes of these facts whichever I have told you in this lesson, especially about the Spenserian stanza and sonnets, the rhyme scheme that he used, and also the quotes which the other writers has to say about him. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we shall discuss Shepherd's Calendar. We shall also try to continue our journey in the new criticism, where we have a few of the important writers still left. And thanks a lot for watching this lesson. Have a great day.